In the darkness-covered village of Karegaon, where silence once prevailed, eerie incidents began to unfold. The temple bells started ringing on their own. Muffled cries of a woman echoed from the village well. And every night, red handprints mysteriously appeared on doors. Old Ram Baros Kaka, who had lived in the village for the past 50 years, trembled with fear as he spoke. It has been 20 years, but she has returned. Kanta Bai is back. One day, Gangubai, the village's eldest woman, went to the well as usual to fetch water. But the moment she lowered her bucket, something forcefully pulled it inside. Suddenly, a burned woman's shadow emerged from a thick white mist rising from the well. Gangubai's mouth remained wide open in shock. A rotten, blackened bone floated to the surface of the water, making her stumble back in terror. She ran home, but the moment she reached her door, her eyes turned white, and she collapsed to the ground, trembling. Only one word escaped her lips: Kanta Bai. That night, the village head, Damodar Singh, lay in his room when his windows began shaking violently on their own. He felt an invisible presence in the room. As he opened his eyes, he saw a burned woman standing before him. Her nails were long and sharp, and blood dripped from her hollow, enraged eyes. "You burned me alive," a chilling voice echoed. "Now it's my turn." Before Damodar Singh could react, the woman lunged at him. He screamed in terror and woke up, drenched in sweat. But when he looked at his palms, he saw deep claw marks imprinted on his skin, as if someone had grabbed him with inhuman strength. The next morning, the villagers found Shambhu Kaka's dead body hanging from a tree near the cremation ground. His eyes were entirely white, his lips were sewn shut with thread, and across his chest, words were carved with sharp nails. "The first sacrifice is complete." Fear gripped the village. No one doubted it anymore. Kanta Bai had returned. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Damodar Singh decided to summon the same tántrik who had imprisoned Kanta Bai's spirit 20 years ago. The powerful mystic, Baba Agnidev, arrived in the village. The moment he sprinkled sacred ash on the ground, it turned blood red. He shivered and declared, "This spirit was never freed. She has returned for vengeance." At exactly midnight, the temple bells began ringing violently on their own. A piercing scream echoed across the village, and Damodar Singh's door burst open on its own. There she stood, Kanta Bai. Her body was completely burned, blood oozing from her charred flesh, and beneath her feet, the ground cracked and burned. As she approached, Damodar's body began to bleed uncontrollably, his bones twisting and breaking on their own. The villagers ran, screaming in horror, as Baba Agnidev began chanting the Mahakali mantra, Om Krim Mahakali Kaya Nama. But Kanta Bai roared, "No mantra can stop me now. I have become immortal." A wave of fire engulfed the entire village. Baba Agnidev tried to use his skull rosary to contain her power, but Kanta Bai's wrath consumed him. The tántrik was dead. The village head was dead. No one remained to fight her. A few days later, the village elected a new leader. On her first night in the house, she glanced at her mirror and saw a shadow moving. Slowly, words began forming in blood on the mirror. "You think it's over?" Karegaon fell into chaos again. The cursed well remained haunted. The temple bells continued to ring, and when Rupa, a young girl from the village, looked into her mirror one night, she saw Kanta Bai's fiery eyes staring back at her. Her screams echoed through the night. The next morning, she was found dead in her room, with deep claw marks on her neck. The villagers were horrified. Was Kanta Bai truly gone, or was her spirit still lurking within the mirror? Baba Agnidev's old disciple, Agori Triambak Nath, was called upon. As he examined Rupa's house, he whispered gravely, "You made a terrible mistake. Kanta Bai's body was destroyed, but her spirit was never freed. She now resides inside a mirror, and if we don't stop her soon, she will return more powerful than ever." That night, an ancient tantric ritual was performed at the cremation ground. Sacred ashes, skull rosaries, and mantras surrounded the cursed mirror. As the chants grew louder, the mirror began shaking violently, dark smoke swirling inside. A horrifying scream burst from within. "You cannot stop me now!" Suddenly, the village was covered in darkness. Kanta Bai's shadow loomed over every street. She was no longer just inside the mirror, she was everywhere. Baba Triambak Nath urgently instructed, "We must complete the ritual, or the entire village will be cursed forever." As the final chant echoed, the mirror cracked and shattered into pieces, releasing a deafening wail. Kanta Bai's burning figure twisted and writhed before turning to ashes. The village was silent once more. But was it truly over?